When my grandma had a hip replacement, my parents sent me to help her. I didn't mind. I loved my grandma dearly, but I was nervous to have such a big responsibility at 15. I was going to have to remind her to take her medications, get them for her, help her bathe, get her meals, etc. And I didn't have experience caring for anyone at this point. Grandma lived about a half an hour up north in the middle of nowhere. Her house was surrounded by woods, and the nearest neighbor was nearly a mile down the road, which is why it was important she had someone with her. If something happened, she couldn't just yell and get a neighbor's attention. I was initially going for the first 4 weeks, but it was summertime, so if she needed me longer, I could always stay. We rolled up to her house one afternoon and unloaded my stuff before going to get her from the hospital. I had forgotten how isolated and almost creepy her property was. Usually we just visited her for holidays, or during an odd weekend here and there. Otherwise, she enjoyed coming to town to see us for whole weekends, so she could get some shopping done. Once we got her home and settled on the hospital bed in the living room, she told me to explore and settle in. "Don't hover over me. I'll be okay. Go on. Go see what you've missed. There are probably things popping up in the garden to snack on," Grandma joked. I wandered around, checking out the garden and swinging on the tire swing she had my uncle make for us grandkids, way back when I was a baby. Out of the corner of my eye while I was swinging, I could have sworn I saw someone. A kid, maybe? But there was no way. We were the only ones for nearly a mile. And if I remembered right, the neighbor's kid was even my age, or a little older. It was obviously my imagination. I'd been gone maybe 15 minutes, but figured that was long enough. I better go see if Grandma needs me, even though she's going to tell me not to hover, I thought. Later, Grandma walked me through making one of the lasagnas she had made before surgery. I had to admit, it felt pretty neat to be helping with such an adult task. My grandma and I were really close, and she said I was the only one she wanted for the job of taking care of her. She didn't want a boring adult. They'll bore me to death with talk of the weather and politics, as she said. When bedtime rolled around, I headed off to the room Grandma made up for me prior to surgery. It was just down the hall from the living room, so I wouldn't be far if she needed me. I must have been asleep no longer than an hour when there was a knock at my door. I popped up. "Grandma, are you okay?" I said. But she didn't answer. There was another knock shortly after I finished my sentence. "Wait, that's not from the door. That's coming from the window," I said out loud. I couldn't believe I was about to do this, but I walked over to the window to peer out against my better judgment. At first, I didn't see anything, but as I continued scanning the area, I saw her, a young girl, at the edge of the woods, staring in at me. Oh, if this isn't creepy, I thought out loud. She disappeared into the woods after motioning for me to follow her. I really struggled in that moment. I knew deep down there was no way a little girl was actually in the woods way out there in the middle of nowhere. But then again, what if there was? What if, and don't laugh, this is where my 15-year-old brain went. What if she was kidnapped and got away and just needed help? I had to go. I slipped my feet into my slide-ons and headed to the door. Thankfully, you could pretty much do anything you wanted. Grandma was the heaviest sleeper anyone had ever met. I made my way out the front door and almost tripped going down the stairs while my eyes adjusted to nearly pitch black. There were no streetlights out there. I also remember my heart being in my throat that night. I could hear the steady thud, thud, thud of my heart pounding as my feet landed on the ground. Looking towards where the girl had appeared, there was nothing. I moved about halfway to where she would have been standing, before softly yelling out, "Hello? Are you out there? Come on out, I'll help you." I waited probably 5 minutes, standing completely still, listening, watching for any sign of anyone. But there wasn't. I knew how incredibly stupid it would be if I went out there into the woods alone in the pitch black, so I didn't. It wasn't cold out. If there was anyone out there, they'd be okay overnight if they didn't come find me again. Heading back in, it took the better part of the rest of the night to fall back asleep. The following day, I spent most of the day just catching up with Grandma, making breakfast and lunch for us, and playing our favorite game, checkers. We would always get super competitive during checkers and made an entire tournament with other family members acting as judges and referees one year. Grandma settled down for a nap somewhere around 2 p.m. after her pain medication kicked in, so I went outside to swing on the porch swing so I wouldn't wake her. I brought my book out. I was always reading something at that age. In fact, you would be more likely to catch me reading than watching TV or movies. I was reading one of the Harry Potter novels. I can't remember which one exactly, but I know that was the series I was into that summer. I was so into the story that I didn't notice the whistling at first. Finally, I snapped out of it for a few seconds and realized I heard faint whistling, coming again from the entrance to the woods. This was it. It was time to venture in and see who, if anyone, was in there. Sitting my book on the swing and taking off, I got to the entrance and hesitated. Do I really want to do this? I thought out loud. But I had to. I had to finally know. Wandering just a few feet in at first, the whistling got louder with each step. "Hello?" I yelled out. The little girl appeared again, this time motioning again for me to follow her. "Okay, I'm here. I'm following you," I said. I just silently followed her, noticing she was barefoot and wearing a long pink dress. She had a matching pink bow in her long, dirty blonde hair. Suddenly, the little girl stopped by a giant old tree, turned around, pointed at the tree, and disappeared. I was so shocked I couldn't move for nearly a minute. I'd never seen someone just disappear in front of my eyes like that. There had to be something important about this tree. She made sure to show it to me before literally disappearing before my eyes. At first, it looked like any old tree, but there, etched in the tree, was R.I.P. Alyssa, 1/14/1983. I ran back to the house, almost crashing through the door. Grandma was awake. "What is it? Why are you in such a rush? You nearly knocked the door in," said Grandma. "You'll never believe this. I just followed a little girl into the woods, and she brought me to this tree, and it says right in the tree trunk, R.I.P. Alyssa, 1/14/1983. And she disappeared right in front of me, I swear." I rushed to get it all out, fearing I would chicken out if I didn't. Grandma started laughing. "Oh, sweetheart, your dad told you that silly ghost story to try to spook you out before dropping you off, didn't he? What a mean thing to do." "What? No, Grandma, I'm serious. It really happened." "You sure have your father's imagination. When you talk to him next, make sure you tell him his ghost story didn't work, that Grandma told you it's all made up. Now let's work on dinner, shall we? I'll teach you how to make that soup you really like," she said, still shaking her head. Defeated, I retreated to the kitchen and we made dinner. I never mentioned it around her again. When I went home, I waited a few weeks before casually asking my dad if he knew any true ghost stories. He told me his experience at Grandma's. He had been splitting wood for her and Grandpa one afternoon when a little girl called out for help. He found her lying by the tree, and when he turned away for a second, she had disappeared. He found the same carving, and years later heard stories at the local bar about a little girl named Alyssa whose life had been taken in those woods, and she was discovered under that tree. Wow, that one was intense. I'm sorry your grandma didn't believe you. Even if I don't believe a child's story, I speak to them as I do, because it's real to them in that very moment. It's crazy that your dad experienced nearly the same thing. Sounds like she's stuck reliving the incident in those woods. If you have a paranormal story to share for an upcoming video, email it to the address in the description below. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you haven't. And with that, see you tomorrow, friends.